Hello, good evening, everyone.
Hello, good evening, guys. Welcome to our last webinar of the day.
hmm Yes, so I think maybe at this stage you will have had us both before. We do a lot of webinars together, and we work together in the school in Milano Meravigli, Milano 1. My name is Sean. I am Irish. I come from Ireland. I've been in Milan since September, and I'm joined by.
And I'm Thiago. I am from Brazil, but I grew up in California, and I've been working at Milano Meravigli since 2016. So I've been there for a little while.
Mhm. So, as always, these are 100 times better when you guys participate, speak to us, ask questions. So, to begin, please, where are you from? What's your names? Tell us about yourselves. Yeah, we
Yeah,
already have
exactly.
Martina from Bologna. Hi, Martina. Great. Keep introducing yourself. And I'll just introduce the topic briefly. So it's called On Second Thought, is focus, and we're looking at vocabulary about thinking, phrasal verbs about thinking, and idioms with mind and brain. So all about thought process, thinking, and the kind
Yeah.
of language that can spring from that.
Yeah, while we're on the topic of thinking, I was actually just thinking about something I wanted to ask you, Sean. So I noticed that on your name there, and also I noticed that in school you always put the accent on the A. So in Irish, so how does the accent change the pronunciation?
Yeah, so this is actually something today when I logged in, I decided I'm going to put my fodder on. Fodder is the Irish word for accent. I'll write it in the chat, a fodder. And with A, it makes an aw sound. So there's
Ah,
actually another word in Irish, shan, which means old. And when you add the fodder, it becomes Sean, which is probably the most common Irish name for boys, John. So people say the spelling of my name makes no sense, but in Irish it makes perfect sense.
I see. Yeah, and would that the father also go with different vowels, or is it mostly just like an
Yeah,
A?
no, we have one for every vowel, and they changed the sounds for each of them. We just have one kind of accent going that way, the fada. We
Mm-hmm.
don't have all the different ones. I know in Portuguese, when I was learning it, the one that I found really difficult, I can't remember what it's called, but it's that kind of ow nasal
Oh
sound.
yeah, like I'm from São Paulo. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah. Ow. I
yeah,
don't
and
know.
you
I
have the
can't do it.
like the
Yeah, the
the
squiggle,
the
whatever it is.
squiggle like we have on the N in Spanish, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, yeah, yeah, loads of in Portuguese we have like a lot of different accents.
Yeah, lots of vowel sounds in general,
Uh-huh. So
which in
cool.
English we have plenty, we just don't use accents.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I also find compared to definitely compared to Portuguese, Spanish, but I also know French tends to use quite a lot of accents. I think like Italian, even though there are accents, they are not used so heavily. Uh, okay, let me give you an example. Because in Italian, when you look at the word, you always know how to pronounce it, pretty much, right? And that's the same for
Yeah,
Spanish, etc. But I feel like in Italian, the accents are not there to guide you with the pronunciation. Whereas in Spanish and Portuguese and French, yes. For example, the word for hazelnut in Italian, right? Nocciola. Originally I thought it was nocciola. I didn't know it was nocciola because there's no
yeah,
accent there to guide me. Because you do say like cucciolo, which is like a puppy. So I
yeah,
thought, why is it cucciolo but not chola, right? It doesn't.
yeah,
The accents are not there to help you with that, which is something that in
yeah,
Portuguese and Spanish you do have. So you're always sure you
yeah.
can pronounce it right.
Yeah, so there you go. Even Italian is difficult to
Yeah.
pronounce in some ways. Yeah. So we have Lavinia, who I remember certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Welcome,
go
Lavinia.
Martini. Great. So keep writing in, yeah, and we'll get on to the first slide, which is don't worry, be happy. So we have some different words, all to do with thought and mental things, and we have to fill the gaps in this text. So, Thiago, do you want to read the text and we'll let the guys in the comments see if they can fill the gaps?
Yeah, sure. So I guess I'll just read all of it first, guys. I'll just say blank when there's a blank, and then you guys just give it us in order, perhaps. So don't worry, be happy. The practice of positive thinking is gaining popularity around the world. Positive thinking is a blank attitude that is based on the blank, that if you blank on the things you want in life using positive thoughts, then you will receive those things more easily. For example, if you desire to be rich, you must blank on the money that you already have and visualize more money coming to you with your blank. Or if you want to find love, you must change your blank that love is hard to find and use an attitude that love is everywhere. Therefore, the belief is that the more you use blank to think about your life, the more positive situations and outcomes you will attract.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of like that The Secret, right?
Oh, yeah. Did you
Yeah.
ever read that?
No, I remember like watching because they even had a movie.
I did,
It's become
yeah.
such like a huge.
Yeah,
They have like
yeah.
merchandise, movies, books. They even have like The Secret for kids now. It's like a kids version of it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like the law of attraction, right? They call it.
Yeah, the positive thinking always makes me think of Oprah because it's something she says a
Yeah,
lot. She really believes that, so
yeah.
makes me think of her. So yeah, guys, fill in with these words.
Oh, here we go. We
Okay.
got some coming in. Nice. So Martina says mental. So positive thinking is a mental attitude. I believe
Mm-hmm.
you're absolutely right.
Yeah,
It's a mental attitude that is
that
based on I would say maybe notion would work best for that second one. So it's based on the notion.
exactly. That if you concentrate
Mhm.
on the things you want.
Great. Then, for example, if you desire to be rich, you must.
Mm,
Um, yeah. See, in this case, concentrate or focus, guys, they're pretty interchangeable. I think they would work on either. So, yeah, for example, Avina had focus for number four, or for number three, number four. Yeah, they're the same, really. Concentrate, focus. And they're both followed by on as well. So, even collocation wise.
yeah.
Welcome, Michaela.
Mm-hmm. Imagination.
Your imagination, I believe you're right.
Very
Or if you
good.
want to find love, you must change your maybe this one.
Mm,
Yeah, maybe optimism. I would maybe put that one last, I would say.
yeah.
So you change your perspective
Mm-hmm.
and
And
then
there, yeah, optimism. Yeah. So I don't know if you have any notes on this vocabulary. I'm not sure if everyone
yeah,
would be
I'm trying to see if
familiar.
there's anything that it would be particularly tricky or that strays significantly from like a Latin expression.
Mm,
No, I think it's pretty straightforward. I guess outcome. So outcome is like the result of something.
yeah, yeah.
I guess that's the only one that comes to mind.
I have an interesting thing to say about notion, which is its use in Irish English, in Hiberno English, where if you say she is full of notions, this is negative. This person has very grand ideas about themselves, and it's very dismissive to say
Ah,
that's a notion. You're just full of
as in
notions.
they think too highly of themselves.
Yeah, and also some idea that's maybe a bit modern or new. They say, "Oh, it's notions."
Ah, I see. Which
That's
I feel
one.
like something like in the US would be like celebrated, right? Like we're so like over the top with our like,
Yeah,
oh, you
yeah,
can be anything you want. Like, yes, folk like
yeah.
individualism, all that whole that idea is like so big for us. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely kind of the secret positive thinking would be considered, notions, a notion
Yeah.
in Ireland. But anyway, great. So we have some questions kind of around that little text. Do
Hmm.
you want to read through these, Thiago?
Sure. So the first question is, do you think that changing your perspective from negative to positive can have an effect on people's lives? So do you agree with what the text was saying? Why or why not? Number two, in what ways would you have to change your mental attitude to get what you want in life according to this idea of positive thinking? And what would you focus or concentrate on? And is the notion of positive thinking dangerous in any way? Are there any consequences to people believing that optimism can change their lives? So let us know, guys. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's not like it's a bit abstract in certain ways. It definitely requires a different perspective. So feel free to also brainstorm. Okay, you don't need to give like a perfect answer. Just yeah, little thoughts here and there, and we can kind of discuss them all. So let us know what you think. What's
Mhm.
your kind of take on this idea of positive thinking or kind of like law of attraction? How do you feel about that, Sean?
Yeah, I'm not very sold on it, I
Mm.
must say. I am people who know me consider me very firmly negative, pessimistic person. I would consider myself just kind of a realist. I don't like to have positive expectations because I find that, it's much more difficult to handle things going wrong when you're an optimist. I mean, I don't really know. I think in some ways I'm innately pessimistic,
Mm-hmm.
but I just kind of imagine that it's better for dealing with bad situations. Are you an optimist or a pessimist?
Mm, I don't know. I feel like it really depends. I think like the for like big things, I try to stay positive, as in making big plans. But I think on day-to-day things, I agree with you. In order to avoid disappointment, sometimes it's just easier to not expect a lot and to even kind of sometimes be a bit negative in that sense. Um,
Mhm.
I'm definitely not sold so much on this idea of the law of attraction, especially when it gets to the point of like that. Some people really believe like that the universe is really sending things to you if you think hard enough. I definitely don't really buy into that so much. I
Mm.
do, of course, however, think that if you do focus on something and you take the action necessary for it to happen, it becomes kind of like a self fulfilling prophecy in many ways.
Yeah, yeah.
So it can be beneficial. And I think that's the strength of the whole idea. And, I think ultimately everything is about narrative. And so if this idea, pushes someone to take the action they need to achieve their goals, I'm all in for it. It's just hard for me to convince myself of it. That's what's hard.
Yeah. No, I've definitely seen studies which say that self-fulfilling prophecy is absolutely a thing. You behave according to your expectations. It's
Yeah.
just hard to know where that leaves us. Hmm. So, Martina, I think that my way of being can definitely have a positive influence on other people because if I am calm, relaxed, and peaceful, others will respond in the same manner.
Hmm.
Yeah, I do agree with Martina. One thing I find being quite negative is that sometimes other people aren't so on the same wavelength, and they can be quite upset by kind of the worst case scenario sort of approach I have. And in that way, maybe it's considerate to be a bit optimistic, but it doesn't come naturally to me.
Yeah, no, but I am, Martin. I think also, I think this is a bit of the idea of like mirroring, right? People, we do have a tendency to mirror the whoever it is that we're talking to, and so if that's what you're giving out, this calmness, peacefulness, I think people they in a certain even to a certain extent they will also kind of mirror some of that, which I think it can be a very positive thing. I think nowadays we're everything but calm, relaxed, and peaceful. And so maybe the world does need, more of that.
Yeah, definitely.
Lavinia, good question there. So I can define myself as a realist, and then you say realist or realistic. They both work. A realist is the noun, so you can say I am a realist, or you can use the adjective I am a realistic person. It's
Mhm,
kind of like when you're saying like I am an introvert, I am an introverted person. The same idea there.
exactly.
And Michaela says, yes, for me, the change of perspective is very important for dealing with critical situations and finding the best solution. Yeah. Yeah, it's hard, right, though, to change perspective. Sometimes you really have to put a lot of effort to do so. And the second question is really related to the law of attraction. But of course, I want to change my mental attitude by becoming less angry in some situations. Uh-huh.
Mm,
And for example, in the last months, I tried my best at what we call, you can say assertive, Martina. I believe it's the same meaning. Just substitute that O with an E, assertive. This means expressing yourself and your point of view, respecting others' ideas in a calm way. Uh, yeah, I would say like assertive is when you have a position and you're not really, you're not super willing to be convinced otherwise. Like, okay, this is it. I'm being assertive. This is where I stand.
mhm, yeah.
I find it difficult to be assertive sometimes. That's one thing I personally struggle with.
Yeah, I've been told that I don't do it intentionally, but I give quite an impression of being, self-possessed and confident, so people don't really push me if I assert myself. I don't have to make too much effort. I
Uh-huh.
don't know. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, for example, I'm really bad with, if I say something and I am met with silence, I
Oh,
immediately start kind of like eating my words back up and trying to, explain myself. Maybe the person's just
yeah.
processing it, but then in my mind, I'm kind of like, ooh, kind of have to justify
Mm.
myself here or something.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And you were saying, I think America is definitely a kind of an optimistic culture. And I would say Ireland is quite pessimistic. I'm not really sure about Italy. I think in some ways Italians are positive, in other ways are negative. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it depends a lot on what we're talking about, huh? I mean, I'd say Italians are very confident about, like Italian food, for example. A bit of a silly example, but that's one area that sometimes it's even hard to convince. I mean, not in big cities in any way, but even the idea of foreign food can just be absolutely no way. I don't want to. Italian food is the best. Um, but I think like sometimes Italians could actually be more kind of self-assured in many ways. I see a lot of people putting themselves down or always kind of like
Yeah.
doubting themselves. Yeah, America's the opposite in that, definitely. I think sometimes way too
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, I mean, certainly teaching English, a lot of Italians have big confidence problems speaking English. They're convinced that they can't do it, which
Yeah,
is not
even when they're
great.
really good. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Mm. That's so great. Yeah. So I think we'll move on to some vocabulary, but feel free to keep sharing your opinions on this topic. So here we have a nice collection of phrasal verbs to confuse you because they all use the same root verb, think, with different prepositions. So we have to think of, to think out, to think over, to think through, and to think up. We have
Mhm.
definitions. So could you guys match them? And while you're doing that, can you go through the definitions, Thiago?
Sure. So we have to prepare or plan something fully before you start doing it, to consider something carefully with all the possible consequences, to consider the possibility of doing something, so really focus on the possibility here, to consider something carefully before deciding, and to create something using your imagination. So as you can see, some of these are very similar in their definition as well, so it's not super easy. To be honest, sometimes doing this focus, I even get confused. Remembering what goes with what, because some of them are quite similar. But let us know what you think, and we can certainly talk about it. And
Yeah.
in the meantime, Martina said, in my opinion, you have to find a balance in everything. Being too optimistic and cover your eyes, and therefore you may not see reality. Yeah, definitely. A good verb you can use here to cover your eyes, you can simply say also the verb to blind. So being too optimistic can blind you.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think, yeah, balance is key for everything, really.
Yeah, the easier said than done.
Easier said than done, for sure.
Mhm. So Martina is saying for to think of, she thinks C, the third one, to consider the possibility of doing something. We'll see. I'm not 100% sure like you. Yeah, to
Mm-hmm.
consider the possibility of doing something. Yeah, to
Yeah.
have an idea really to think of.
And I would say that it could even think of or think about are quite similar, if not the same. Right?
Yeah.
I'll think about it. I'll think about that possibility. I'll think of that possibility. I don't see a huge difference there, because that's one we
No.
don't have either to think about.
Yeah. So to think out, this one's a little different
Hmm.
to think of, definitely. hmm
Yeah, I think think out is the one that I would personally use the least. I
Yeah,
would say
I don't think.
think through more than think out.
Yeah, think through. Yeah. Okay, so two
Maybe
is
A.
for Martina. I think also Michaela. Yeah, yeah. So to prepare or plan something fully before you start doing it. Yes, to consider options, to think it out. Exactly. To think over. Martina's saying D, to consider something carefully before deciding. Yeah, and I mean, almost synonymous, I would say, really.
Mm-hmm.
And to think through then. Yeah. B, to consider something carefully. Exactly. And then finally, to create something using your imagination. Certainly, another phrasal verb that I would use a lot for having ideas or brainstorming would be to come up with.
Come up with, yeah.
That's a very common one. And
Mm-hmm.
it's got a nice two prepositions.
Yeah, I think the most confusing ones here sometimes would be, yes, the difference between think out, think over, and think through, because they're quite similar. yeah, when I look at a definition, I say, okay, that makes sense. But when I'm speaking, I have to be honest with you, I don't necessarily consider all these different things. But so just reading this here, I guess a way of thinking about it is, okay, over here. So maybe if we say to think out, it's like all the details of it. So you think of the details, right? You're planning everything fully. Think over, you're doing so carefully. So you're focusing on how careful you need to approach it. And think through, you also include the consequences. You consider them as well. But I think for a lot of situations, you can choose one and it would apply the same way.
Yeah, I think over is a good one for when you're revisiting an idea and you think, do I want to do that? I go to the beginning, I think through everything again. I think over has that implication of the whole thing
Yeah.
once more.
And like out, yeah, it's like the idea, even like, figure out, as in, fully get a full
Yeah,
understanding in terms of figure out. Whereas
yeah,
think
to
out, you fully, yeah, prepare.
yeah, yeah. So the different kind anyway. So the brain or the mind, decide if the following idioms use the word brain or the word mind in the gaps, and then we'll match the idiom with its definition. So first, let's try and put either mind or brain into these gaps. So something storm, state of something, pick someone something, take your something off of something, thing, or make up your something. So please tell us if you some of these are very common, certainly.
Yeah, some of these you've definitely used, and you even use it in Italian directly from English.
Mhm.
Okay, so one we have, yeah, brainstorm. So to brainstorm, definitely good, and we'll go over the definitions in just a second. Two, we have a state of mind. Oops, state of mind. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To pick someone's brain.
Mm-hmm.
So to take your mind off of something.
Mm-hmm. To rack your. Mm-hmm.
Good, nicely done. And Lavinia had the last one. So make up your mind.
Yeah.
Good, guys. Do you know the meaning of any of these? I think brainstorm is
Mm.
one that is, I think it's the easiest to brainstorm.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this has even become something people might say in Italian and sort of a business lingo kind of
Yeah,
thing.
it's quite, because it is hard to translate. Because if you do translate, it becomes so literal that it's not. It can even be a
Yeah.
bit strange. It is a bit of a strange expression if you really think about it.
So we have a first definition here. To obtain information by questioning someone who's better informed on a subject.
Mhm.
Which one do you think that is? Also, something to note going through these is that, I mean, these are all the correct versions. So, state of, but some of them, I think English speakers might even get confused and say, rack your mind.
Rack your mind, especially. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's
take
not a
your
big
take your
deal. You're
brain out. Yeah.
understood. So, but some of them you don't mind storm or state of brain. So it depends.
Good, Martina. Very nice.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, I personally really don't like that one. I just get this really bad image in my head of I think of like a bird eating like a dead body, just like picking on the
Oh,
brain. I just get this horrible like image. So I hate when someone says, "Oh, Thiago, I need to pick your brain about something." I'm like, ah, just
yeah,
ask for my
yeah.
opinion, but don't pick my brain. Yeah.
Okay, so you're very visual.
Yeah, very yeah. At least for that one, I just get that immediately get that image in my head, just like a
Yeah,
crow. I don't
yeah. I'll try not to say that to you.
know. Or like
Okay.
I also don't like I have a bone to pick with you. I hate that.
Oh, yeah, that's another one. Yeah, a bone to pick with you. What's
Yeah.
that?
Like if you have usually like if you have a problem with someone, there's like a situation they did something you didn't like and you just want to like talk about it. Pick a
Hmm.
bone.
Yeah. So to make a decision, which one of these is to make a decision?
Especially a decision that you make kind of on your own.
Yeah, yeah.
Or I guess you
Mm.
could do it together, but it does have to be like maybe parents could say to their children.
Yeah. Another idiom that I would say, I don't know that everyone says it, is penny for your thoughts.
Penny for your thoughts. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's when you're interested to see what someone's
Yeah.
thinking. Usually if someone's being very quiet or looks a bit unusual.
Yeah. Yes, Martina, very nice one. Make up your mind. Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
Group discussion to produce ideas. For this, we also talk about mind maps, which we certainly like to use in the school when we have
Mm-hmm.
boards to do, which is when you draw a circle and all the ideas come out. And certainly, I don't know that they do it in Italian schools because every time I've done it, I get a few people who are like, "What are you doing?" But
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be very common. Although I did have a student, and she would always take her notes with mind maps. Like everything
yeah,
would be that. It's quite nice.
it's a good method.
All right, nice, Martina. Again, there. Great to brainstorm. Yep.
Hmm. Your mood or your mental state at a particular time. We also talk about someone's mindset, which is a bit different to their mood. Its mindset is more someone's motivation, someone's ideas, I think. He has a good
Mm-hmm.
mindset for his job. Yeah, that's a state of mind, exactly, Martina. To make a great effort to think of or remember something.
Good. Nicely
Mhm.
done. Rack your
Good.
brain.
And the last one then, to make you stop thinking or worrying about something, take your mind off, which is definitely one for the times. Yeah, wants to take our mind off the
Mm-hmm.
coronavirus, I think, at the moment.
Exactly.
Okay, so the brain versus the heart. So we have some resources which I'll get up in a minute. So on the resource cards is a decision that must be made. So you have the heart and the brain. So we're just going to talk about what is the decision you'd make with your heart and what is the decision that you'd made in these scenarios. So just one second. So, mhm, okay. So, okay. So this first scenario, can you read this, please, Thiago?
Yeah, so in this first scenario, guys, let's imagine that you have just met someone who is visiting from out of town and you feel some romantic feelings for them, but have not had a lot of time to get to know them. They are leaving back to their country in less than a week, but you cannot imagine being apart from them. What would you do?
Hmm.
So yeah, so let us know what you think. How would the heart react? How would the brain react? So the two different ways we kind of did the emotional and the rational side of our brain. How would we approach that? And if you can even incorporate maybe the new expressions in this, it'd be great. Let
Yeah.
us know what you think. It's a really tricky one.
Hmm. I mean, personally, I'm always very much thinking with my mind. I don't personally. I know my decision would be clear even in this
Really, but
situation.
even if you like catch feelings, though.
I know. I don't make snap decisions. I don't do things in a rash way. I like to, anything big, I have to plan. Are you the other way?
I think I'm kind of a mix, really. But I definitely think with romantic things, yeah, I guess I'm more emotional in that sense. I tend to go for it and like take those risks. Maybe because it's never really gone that bad, at least, and so I don't have like maybe the negative experience. But this would be really hard.
Hmm.
I mean, of course, because I mean, the main thing here is that you really didn't get a chance to really get to know them well. I think that's
Yeah.
the part that would perhaps trigger more of a rational reaction for me.
Yeah. Did you see that show Love is Blind on Netflix?
I have not, I don't think. Remember there was a movie like that, but not a show. What
Yeah,
is
no,
it? What is it about?
it's a reality show where these people date um, by speaking, but there's a
Oh,
something
yeah.
blocking them from seeing each other,
Okay, okay.
and they can only see each other and continue the relationship by proposing and getting married.
Oh my God.
S- So yeah, these people they propose before seeing each other, and then you see if they can get married. And I mean, certainly, I think only in America could you do this kind of thing
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
I would not do something like that in a million years.
Yeah, no, that's nuts. Especially getting married. I mean, gosh, that's a lot.
Hmm.
Martina says, in my dreams, I would do something to convince him to stay, but I know that I will do nothing because my worst fear is to be rejected. Yeah, that's another legitimate fear, definitely. I know another thing that can be common sometimes is even when people are in relationships or in the process of getting into a relationship, as kind of like a defense mechanism, they tend to push people away so they don't have to feel rejected. They do the rejecting, as kind of a defense mechanism. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, certainly. Hearts get in the way in different ways. Yeah, great.
yeah. So
So
for you,
let's look
Sean,
at
so in this
the
first
next
situation, you would just
scenario.
totally rational, this won't work. We live in different places, and so you wouldn't go for it.
Yeah, for me, no, not in a million years. That's it for me. I wouldn't go for it. I know myself, I
Uh,
wouldn't.
I guess I would try to like keep getting to know them or try to, it depends also where, I mean, where is this person from? Out of town, where? Are they like an hour away? Are they like a short plane ride away? Do they live like in another continent? I think that would also kind of play a factor, but I guess I would try to just see where it would go. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I could be swayed if they lived somewhere amazing and they had lots of money, but just on the romantic connection, no, not for me. See, my mind is taken over. So, the second one we'll have a look at. You have been working as an administrator for 4 years now. The job is very boring, but they pay you well, and you are certain that the company will keep you employed until retirement. Recently, advertisement in the paper for a travel writing, but you've always had a passion for travel writing, but the position does not pay a living wage, and you are not guaranteed to be successful. What would you do? So, a professional, not romantic scenario. This.
Reading these situations, I guess I really am more
Hmm.
impulsive than I like to think. I would probably take the travel writing position.
Yeah.
I would. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
especially
I
because
guess
it's not
by
just.
coming to Italy, we kind of took a risk.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, if I just think of like all the decisions I've made, especially because coming here with everything was so unsure. Um, but yeah, and then there has been this
Hmm.
person's passion as well. It's not just like traveling. That's one thing I would be wary of. Oh, it's nice because it's a job that makes me travel, because I think it's an easy trap to fall into. Most of the times when you're traveling for work, it's you don't even have the time to enjoy. But it's a travel writing position that this person has always had a passion for. So I would definitely, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, myself, I don't know, would I go for it? But sometimes I think the heart maybe makes the right decision because, you know, sometimes it's better to take a risk, especially if you're somewhere where it's not leading to anything.
Mm,
I think risk is important in these situations. But I
yeah.
still don't know what I would do. I don't actually get bored that easily, or I don't mind boredom, so I might just stick at the boring job.
Yeah, because it also, I mean, they mention it's boring, but they don't give us other details. I think it's one thing if, you're making a lot of money, but then as a result, in order to earn that money, that means you're putting in 12 hours a day and your quality of life has dropped significantly. I think that would make the decision easier as well. If it's just boring, but you still, have, plenty of time at the end of the day, you can still like kind of go on holiday. We can always kind of also have as a kind of as a side thing, or maybe even for fun, as opposed to a job. You could still maybe do some travel writing.
Yeah, sometimes you've got to look for compromise and balance rather than going entirely with your head or your heart. Mm. So we'll see if Martina has thoughts on that one, and I think we'll go this one while she's writing in. Okay, so you and your best friend. Can you read this one, please?
So you and your best friend got into a fight 2 years ago and haven't talked since. They were not a good influence on your life and were always lying to you and borrowing money. But you miss them. One day, they call you out of the blue and want to become friends again. What would you do? I think there are loads of red flags here, but
I mean, I don't know. It depends. You can. I think it's good to give people a chance. No?
I think so, but it's like the lying and the fact that you already weren't a good influence in your life. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to becoming friends, but I think it's more like the expectation that things would have to go back to how they were before, like best friends like that. Um, I guess I wouldn't mind having it in my life and seeing where that would go. But I think what's tricky in the situation is that then you have an expectation for things to go back the way they were, and that's just not realistic. But let's see. In the meantime, Martina got back to us with the second situation. So in the beginning, I might remain in that position, but since I am impulsive and instinctive, then I will accept the travel writing, hoping the salary will raise. Yeah, see, that's how I would approach it as well, Martina. I think I would hope, yeah, that I would become good enough that I would be able to maybe make more money with it at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for this a third one, I really think I would communicate with this person again because for me, with a friendship, uh, you know, to me, it's always good to keep in contact. It doesn't matter if there's negative things. You just have to set your boundaries and be clear about the problems. But I think it's always bad when people don't get back in touch and stay out of touch. I think you always regret that, really. I
Mm.
think it's bad for you to do that.
Yeah, especially because then
So,
you would feel like you didn't get proper closure as well. You'd just be thinking about, yeah, that person reached out to me and like I totally, I didn't want to. So you wouldn't, I don't know, it'd be hard to like live with that. You would always be thinking about it in the back of your mind.
yeah, definitely. So we've got just a little bit of time left. I think we can quickly look at the last one and then finish off. So you are on a vacation in New York City and you've never felt so alive. Something about the city feels so exciting and you can't take your mind off moving to the city. But you don't know anyone in New York, you don't have a job, and you are not sure where you would live. What would you do? So again, I think this is not an alien situation to us.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be practical to a certain extent. I mean, I found a job man, but I mean, when you go somewhere, these things do tend to fall into place. And I mean, in Ireland, there were no jobs for me,
Yeah,
so I
exactly.
had to make this decision.
Yeah, I think getting informed and yeah, like trying to set some things up beforehand. I think it's okay to be impulsive, as you said, to a certain extent. Just make sure you're doing so smartly. Just you don't have to move to New York City. You don't have to stay in New York City after a vacation. You can always go back home and then kind of set things up in a way that at least at first you're covered. I think moving when you're moving to a new city as well, it's always good to first save up a little bit so that I think counting on moving, getting a job, and then having to pay your rent with the money that you're making at first job is unrealistic. And so I think having some money saved up is a big step here.
Uh, no, I had a cousin who she went to Barcelona on holiday, and the place she was staying, they offered her a room to rent on a permanent basis. and she just went for it. She was meant to be there for a week,
Really? So she
and
just
she
stayed
stayed
there.
there for 10 years. 10 years.
Wow.
She
Look at that.
speaks Spanish and Catalan now. You know, it was a huge portion of her life,
Wow.
and it was really a snap decision like
Huh.
that. So, yeah. Okay. So we're up for time, I think. Um, Certainly a lot of vocabulary, but I think this was kind of a discussion type focus about getting ideas going, definitely. Do you have anything to add just to close up, Thiago?
No, I think that's it. I guess, yeah, Martina, you're the only one left now. So thank you really for all the really good participation, the examples. You express yourself well. You're very quick with the expressions as well. So very nicely done. Thank you.
So that's it from us. Thank you. Good night. See you next time. Okay.
Thank you,
Bye
guys.
bye.
See you soon. Bye.